Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is apparently mad about the lack of railway safety following the derailment of a train in East Palestine, Ohio. Now, since that derailment, of course, we've had derailments in Texas as well as Arizona. And so, yeah, there seems to be a real issue with train safety. In fact, look, going to Palestine, Ohio, the derailment and ensuing fireball, which, by the way, they said was a controlled burn, released hazardous chemicals into the air, like vinyl chloride. I'm sorry, vinyl chloride was being burned, and that released other hazardous chemicals into the air. Being very clear about that. Now, that said, Greene, she's taken to Twitter, to say, why aren't we spending more time talking about East Palestine, Ohio? That's a fair question. It's a good question, right? Yes, we should spend time. We should talk about it. But more importantly, should solve the problem. That said, she's going to go on Hannity. And, first, her and Sean Hannity are going to claim the left is not paying attention and then go after the left for allegedly not paying attention to this disaster. And it just gets worse from there. So we're going to start out with the first clip here of her on Hannity.
And then you have this toxic chemical mess in Ohio, in Palestine that we reported on earlier in the program. And I don't hear anything from the new Green Deal climate alarmist cult about what is an environmental disaster by every measure. Why?
Well, I'm not sure. I don't know why AOC isn't dressed in white and crying for the dead whales that keep washing on the beach from wind farms that are being placed all over the ocean. And people are calling the alarms over how this is not only killing unknown thousands of bird species, but also causing whales to beach themselves at record numbers.
Yeah, that's not what's happening, actually. Now, look, our whales beaching themselves? Well, yeah, it has happened. 9 whale deaths in New York and New Jersey in the last 2 months. All right. So that said, according to experts, it has nothing to do with the wind farms. Nothing at all. In fact, let me go here to Benjamin Laws, Deputy Chief for the Permits and Conservation Division with the NOAA Fisheries Office of Protected Resources. Here's what he said about that. Quote, there are no known connections between any of these offshore wind activities and any whale strandings, regardless of species. Now, he also says that speculation that sonar equipment wind companies use to map the ocean floor could have fatally harmed the whales has not been proven. Okay. There's no information that would support any suggestion that any of the equipment that's being used in support of wind development for the site characterization surveys could directly lead to the death of a whale. So, of course, unsurprisingly, she is not being factually accurate. Not surprising, right? Not surprising at all. That said, is the left not? Why is the left not covering this? Why are they not making a big deal about this? What do you mean? I mean, of course, the left is paying attention to it. Former Senator Nina Turner, for example, and now host of a TYT host. She's talking about it all the time. She's talking about this nonstop, tweeting about this. And so I left the independent media. They're talking about this because it's horrifying. It's a complete and utter disaster. So I don't know what, I mean, maybe she doesn't see the left. I don't know. Maybe she's not looking for it. But look, here's the thing though. There were hazardous chemicals that were released. A lot of them. And it is important that we talk about this, right? In addition to vinyl chloride, for example, and butyl acrylate, there was also ethyl hexyl acrylate, which can cause things like headaches, nausea, respiratory problems. There's also isobutylene. The EPA has also noted the possibility of other chemicals, including phosgene and hydrogen chloride, which are, of course, released when burning vinyl chloride, which is what they did. In fact, they did all this stuff, and look, there will be long-term health impacts to the people that are there, and not just long-term health impacts, but there's impacts right now. It's been described as a toxic soup, and it's affecting people. It's killing wildlife. Residents have reported seeing dead fish, birds, and other deceased wildlife. So, look, again, we're talking about it. Other lefty media is talking about it. Where's like, she has no leg to stand on when it comes to that. Now, that said, has the right wing been talking about it? Yes, surprisingly so. Now, they've actually mainly focused on the chemical danger, which is fine. The lawsuits, apparently members of the town are suing or looking to sue. And, of course, the animal deaths. All right, that's fine. However, they also focused on Pete Buttigieg, which now, of course, Marjorie Greene is going to go on a fairly homophobic attack.
But the real problem, Sean, is Pete Buttigieg. He's the Secretary of Transportation, and he's more interested in equity and inclusion in his hiring practices and grant-giving schemes and obviously probably chest feeding or something like that than he is rail safety.
Look, so, of course, she had to make this about wokeness and then throw in the homophobic, the chest feeding. Oh. Look, the real problem isn't Pete Buttigieg. And by the way, trust me, Pete Buttigieg is innocent in this, okay? And I will get to that, all right? The problem also is not wokeness, all right? It's not the wokers that's running the government, okay? No. What this is about is corporations that run our system of government. Corporate capture, okay? And ironically, that's going to play into the next video here, where Marjorie Greene talks about train derailments, right? And also about a bill that she voted against.
Because train derailment is happening every single day, and now thousands of people, birds, animals, they're all sick, and we don't know the consequences of this horrible accident in East Palestine. But we have people like Ilhan Omar. She wants to, crack down on corporate greed when it comes to rails and the privately owned sections of rails. But really what we have to do is we have to make sure that our rails are safe. Democrats passed a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, and only $5 billion went towards rail safety. This is a failure. It would have never happened under a Republican-controlled infrastructure bill, and we need to hold Democrats accountable for this, especially Pete Buttigieg.
Wait, hold on. You're saying that this would have never happened under a Republican administration? Except it did. There were train derailments that have happened. And again, it's not just because of one particular administration. It's because of corporate greed and deregulation. But look, okay. On the issue though of I can't believe the Democrats would pass a bill that doesn't give enough money to train safety. Well, what did the Trump administration do? Well, they had a chance to pass an infrastructure bill. Did they pass one? No, they didn't. In fact, what they did instead, in the 2 years they had full control of government, is cut taxes for the rich. I mean, Infrastructure Week was a joke. Literally, he did nothing. They did nothing. The Republicans did. So, all right. That said, Democrats did pass a bill. And by the way, the effects of which... and I said at the time, by the way, that the effects of which would not be felt for years and years to come. So that said, this disaster didn't happen because we didn't give the train corporations enough money. No, it happened. Look, let me point out why. Okay, let me explain this a little bit in detail. So these rail corporations have more than enough money. They're the company itself, Norfolk Southern, is a $55 billion company. that made over $3 billion in profits last year and from over $12 billion in revenue. They have the money to upgrade their braking systems. But what did they do with it instead? Well, they bought back their own stocks. That's it. So throwing more money at them, more taxpayer money, all that's going to mean is them buying their own stock back. It's not going to solve the problem. And that said, you're going to criticize what the Democrats did with the bill that you voted against. And not because, it didn't give enough to rail companies for rail safety. No, you voted against the bill because, well, I don't necessarily know why she voted against the bill, but it's socialism or something, right? Okay, I have to.
In Venezuela.
I don't know. She voted against it. Most Republicans did too. So what is she complaining about? Why? Again, the real issue here behind this entire thing is, again, deregulation and pro-corporate policies. So look, now let me give you a little history. The Obama administration back in 2014, after some train crashes, right, proposed improving safety regulations for trains carrying hazardous materials, petroleum, for example, right? Now, the industry decided to push back on that. And the measure, because of that industry pushback, you had the rule that was severely watered down and only focused on the transport of crude oil. Those rules actually exempted trains carrying many other combustible materials, including the chemical involved in the disasters, according to reporting from The Lever. Now, in 2017, the Trump administration had been in, and after a lobbying blitz by rail companies that poured $6 million into Republican campaigns, Senate Republicans paid them back by repealing the remainder of the rule, which, by the way, involved looking into better braking systems. In both of those cases, by the way, in both of those administrations, corporate greed and corrupt politicians chipped away at regulations that may have prevented this disaster. So now I'm making it a point here to kind of spread the blame around to the people that deserve it. Okay, so I'm not pinning everything on Republicans, and of course I'm not pinning everything on Democrats. It's actually the corruption in our system is actually not partisan when you look at it, because you have big corporations, rail companies in this case, that use their lobbying power, the fact that our system is corrupt, there is systemic corruption, in order to buy politicians from both sides. So now, here's where we get to where Pete Buttigieg and the Biden administration do share some of that blame, okay? And it's not because, Pete Buttigieg gay, because that's what, Marjorie Greene and other ghoulish right-wingers are attacking him for. So Biden gets into office, right? He appoints Pete Buttigieg. And Buttigieg gets, as head of the transportation department. And instead of putting the Obama rules back that were taken out by Trump, he doesn't do anything on this issue. So he could have put those rules back. He didn't. In fact, right now, as of right now, there is no plans to put these rules back into place. In fact, according to the Labor, there is one brake safety proposal currently under consideration by federal rail regulators. It just happens to be an industry-backed rule relaxing brake testing requirements. So what is this? It just means deregulation, more industry-friendly rules. It's maddening. Now, the Biden administration, Biden himself, where does he get some of the blame? Well, you may remember a few months ago, in the fall, the Biden administration broke a potential rail strike. So now the unions were looking to strike, for one, as a result of not having any paid sick time. Okay, so no paid time off, brutal punishing schedules, and of course, other safety concerns. In fact, The Lever reports that between 2011 and 2021, the 7 largest freight railroad companies in the U.S., including Norfolk Southern, used their money, their profits, as I mentioned, they're a very profitable industry, not to address any of the issues that the unions were talking about. And in fact, this is why the unions were going to go on strike. They spent $191 billion on stock buybacks and shareholder dividends while slashing the workforces by nearly 30%. So, more money for executives, shareholders, less employees. So now you're stressing people out who are working there, stretching them thin. In fact, this is Greg Regan, president of the Transportation Trades Department at the AFL-CIO, told the Lever, the massive reduction in the workforce, attendance policies that encourage people to come into work when they're sick or exhausted, lack of access to paid leave, stress that's constantly put on workers because of how lean the workforce has become, it creates a negative culture in terms of safety. Not only that, but of course, you have trains that have gotten longer, including, which basically there's more cars involved, more cars, less people running the cars, and then you add in Civil War era braking systems and unions that are not allowed to strike because the government stepped in and protected the corporation. It's a perfect storm of deregulation, corruption, money in politics, and anti-labor policy. Now, is Marjorie Taylor Greene going to criticize Trump and Republicans in Congress for deregulating industry? Is she going to touch on any of the nuanced issues that I just talked about? How, did you know that they deregulated, they took away these rules that would have made these companies have to invest in upgrading their brakes? No, she, of course not. Now, that said, on the other side of the coin here, is corporate media out there blaming Buttigieg for not reenacting the safety rule that was stripped out by Trump? Are they going to be out there criticizing President Biden for breaking that potential strike, which again, one of the demands by the union was, please invest in the workforce and do these safety measures. Put these safety measures back into place. The union had been arguing against relaxing rules when it comes to safety and braking. No. Of course not. Look, at the end of the day, Marjorie Greene and Sean Hannity, they're going to use this issue, which, by the way, is an issue. It's a serious issue that is going to have ramifications for a very, very long time. And their criticism could be effective at actually doing something against, basically what is corruption. But they won't. They're ignoring the real issues, and they're just doing partisan attacks. See, look, at the end of the day, it's not about the people. It's not about Biden, Buttigieg, Obama, or even Trump, okay? There's symptoms here. This is about capitalism that incentivizes shareholder value over the safety of human beings, over people's lives, and the environment as well. We see this all the time. It is endemic in our system. It is corruption. All the incentives in business and government are in the wrong place. And it is because of corporate greed and corruption. Our system is broken. It is systemic. It's no matter who you put into power, at this point, the system is far too corrupt to actually make that effective change from the inside. You have to have pressure from the outside. You have to have labor. You have to have unions. You have to have people power to fight back against the corruption and save people's lives. And I'm not saying in a violent way. I'm saying in a non-violent way. But people have to get together and be able to, root out that corruption. And for, I'm all for holding, Buttigieg, Biden accountable, but also Congress, especially Congress, and hold the politicians and, most importantly, the owner donors accountable for their impact on the system.